You wake up, you look at your phone, you see the messages, the emails, the things that need doing, and you just put it back down. Not because you're lazy, not because you don't care. You put it down because something inside you already knows how it's going to go. You'll try. Something will go wrong, or go nowhere, or go exactly as planned and still feel completely empty. And you'll be right back here tomorrow morning, doing the same thing. So you stop before you start. And the strange part? You don't feel guilty about it anymore. You used to. You used to lie awake cataloging everything you didn't do, every goal you abandoned, every version of yourself you promised you'd become. But now, there's just quiet. People around you notice. They say things like, "You've changed," or "You seem distant," or the one that really lands, "You just don't seem to care anymore." And you nod, because correcting them would take too much energy. Here's what I want to tell you. That quiet isn't emptiness. That stillness isn't failure. What's happening inside you is a lot more complex and a lot more intelligent than anyone around you realizes. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why you got here. And it won't sound like a self-help speech. It'll sound like something you already knew but couldn't say out loud. The first thing we need to dismantle is the word lazy, because it gets used on people who have stopped trying, and it is almost always wrong. Lazy implies you never started. Lazy implies low investment, low stakes, low care. But the people who have truly stopped trying, they almost always tried too much, for too long, with too little return. There's a psychological pattern called effort-reward imbalance. It's exactly what it sounds like. You give, and the return never matches the output. And at first you rationalize it. You tell yourself, work harder, be more patient, adjust your expectations. So you do, and still, nothing shifts. The brain is an efficiency machine. It is always running a quiet calculation in the background. Is this worth the cost? And when that calculation keeps returning a loss, the brain starts pulling investment, not as punishment, as protection. Laziness is a choice made from comfort. Burnout is a withdrawal made from pain. Those two things are not the same. They don't even live in the same neighborhood. But here's what no one talks about. Burnout isn't always loud. It doesn't always look like crying on the bathroom floor or calling in sick. Sometimes it looks like a person sitting across from you at dinner, nodding at the right times, completely unreachable. And it gets darker than that. Your nervous system has 3 basic modes. You've probably heard of fight or flight, that activated high alert state where you're either pushing back or running. But there's a third mode, freeze. Freeze is what happens when the nervous system has been running in fight or flight for so long that it just shuts the system down. It's not a choice. It's a biological override. The body decides that spending any more energy on a threat it can't escape or defeat is dangerous. So it conserves. It goes quiet. It dissociates slightly from the immediate experience of being alive. This aligns with what's often described in polyvagal theory, developed by Stephen Porges. The idea that when connection and safety feel unavailable, the body can shift into a shutdown state to survive. This is why people who have stopped trying often describe feeling numb. Not sad exactly, not angry, just flat, like there's glass between them and their own life. And people around them interpret this as attitude, as arrogance maybe, or depression, or simply not caring. When actually, what they're watching is a nervous system that has spent years being flooded and has finally found a way to stop drowning. The irony is that freeze mode looks passive from the outside, but internally, it took an enormous amount of sustained pressure to get there. So what actually broke? Not willpower, not character, not potential. What broke was the belief that effort connects to outcome, that trying means something. Psychologists sometimes refer to this collapse as learned helplessness, a concept first studied by Martin Seligman. When repeated effort fails to change the result, the brain eventually stops initiating effort at all. Not because it can't, but because it has learned that it doesn't matter. And usually that belief doesn't break in one moment. It erodes, slowly, through repeated experiences of doing everything right and still losing, through being vulnerable and not being met, through caring deeply about something and watching it be treated like it didn't matter. A lot of people who have stopped trying grew up in environments or entered relationships or built careers where their emotional experience was consistently minimized. You felt something. Someone explained why you shouldn't. You tried to express something. Someone redirected it. Over and over, the message landed: your inner world is inconvenient. So you adapted. You learned to compress yourself, to take up less space, to stop expecting acknowledgement you were never going to receive. That's not weakness. That's survival. But here's the dangerous part. Once you've adapted to invisibility, you can start enforcing it on yourself. You stop trying not just because the world dismissed you, but because you've started to do it too. Here's what makes these people hard to read. They're usually calm. They don't explode, they don't chase, they don't plead. They've moved past the stage where the emotion comes out sideways. They've processed it, or rather, they've compressed it so many times it no longer surfaces easily. So they sit in meetings and smile. They text back fine. They show up. They function. And everyone assumes they're okay, because they're not visibly not okay. But there's a difference between stability and detachment. Stability means you're grounded. Detachment means the wire has been pulled. These people have often disconnected from desire itself, not just from specific goals, from wanting generally. Because wanting opens the door to trying, and trying opens the door to losing again. And they've already paid that toll more times than they can count. And this is where most people misunderstand them. They assume the detachment is indifference. It's not. It's armor. Very, very carefully constructed armor. There's something that doesn't get said enough. Withdrawal is sometimes wisdom. Not always, but sometimes. There are environments that genuinely are not worth the energy. There are relationships where trying harder would only prolong damage. There are systems designed to extract from you without return. And recognizing that, and refusing to keep feeding it, is not giving up. It's discernment. People who have stopped trying often have a very high emotional IQ. They read rooms quickly. They see through performance. They know when something is real and when it isn't, because they've been burned enough times by the difference. Their withdrawal isn't blindness. It's a highly calibrated response to a pattern they've identified. The problem is that this same intelligence, turned inward without outlet, becomes isolation. The same sensitivity that helps them detect what's wrong can also convince them that everything is wrong, that nowhere is safe, that no one is worth the risk. But here's the turning point. There is a line between giving up and protecting your energy. It's thin, but it's real. Giving up is a closed door. It says, nothing will change. I am done. This is the end of the story. It contracts around you. It gets smaller every year. Protecting your energy is something else. It says, I am not spending myself on things that cost more than they return. It's a filter, not a wall. It still leaves room for the right things, the right people, the right moments when something inside you says, yes, this one is worth it. The people who have stopped trying aren't always done. Sometimes they're just very, very tired. And they need someone, including themselves, to stop asking them to perform recovery and start allowing them to simply rest inside the truth of where they are. You're allowed to be here, in this place, without immediately converting it into a lesson or a comeback. So the real question is, are you actually done? Or are you just finally being honest about what you're no longer willing to pretend? I'm not going to tell you to try again. I'm not going to give you 5 steps or a morning routine or a reframe that makes this feel like a gift in disguise. What I'll say is this: the fact that you're watching something like this, thinking this carefully about your own interior life, means something is still alive in you that cares about understanding itself. That's not nothing. That's actually quite rare. The people who have stopped trying are not broken people. They are often the people who felt the most, expected the most from life, and were met with the least. And at some point, they made a quiet decision to stop offering themselves to things that couldn't receive them. That decision made sense, given everything. Where it goes from here, that's not something I can tell you. It's something you'll feel when the timing is right, when something earns it, when you decide, without anyone pressuring you, that it's worth it again. Until then, you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to get better on anyone else's schedule. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're someone who's been through something, and you're still here, thinking about it. That's enough for right now. If this reached something in you, sit with it. That's all.